everyone. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Doobert webinar. So today we're going to be looking at how we can build a spay and neuter workflow. So we're actually going to be building 3 workflows in this webinar together, but they're all going to work together as basically one comprehensive process. So basically one workflow will go out and then the case status will change and then your team will know to execute that second workflow and then the third. So it'll be really exciting. We're going to build it together, and hopefully if you guys like the process, you can replicate it. So just to go through a quick slideshow first, if you're new to our webinars, we just have a quick slideshow at the beginning, and then we'll jump into the system. We'll demo everything we just talked about here, and then towards the end, we're going to have just a brief Q&A with some questions that we get from any of our demos to our help email, all things like that. So other than that, let's get started with our overview. So the great thing about the workflows is that they're great for the automated communications. So basically, it's going to automate your follow-ups, and for example, if they don't answer, it's going to send them another message reminding them of something, things like that. So it really just takes the follow-ups off of your organization's hands. So another great thing about these is that you'll be notified of any incoming replies from your workflows. So if you send out an email workflow, you'll be notified of the reply within the case, and then we can adjust our case types and statuses based on how the recipient replies. So that's another really great feature to it because it keeps your case up to date as well. So what we're going to do for our spay and neuter workflows is, for the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a case for every single spay and neuter request that we get. And this is one case per person, basically. So if they have multiple pets, it'll be within one case depending on how you want to organize it. But for my example, we're just going to have one case with as many animals as they might have included in that. So we're going to create a case for every single spay and neuter request we get, whether we get them over the phone, an email, all things like that. Or if you are enrolled in our spay and neuter program, you'll have a form to gather your requests. So we'll go through a little bit of that towards the end as well, and I'll show you guys kind of how that would work. But we're going to use our case types to differentiate between whether it's a spay or a neuter case. And we're going to add our statuses to identify whether they're waitlisted, scheduled, and once it's completed, we'll archive the case if they don't have any questions or concerns. So moving on, what we're going to do first is create our templates. So we need to create our templates before we start building our workflow. So that's really key to the process. As well as our case types and statuses. We want to have those set as well. And basically, we're going to create a variety of templates that are going to be used in these 3 workflows. So I have all these in a doc, and I'm going to copy them in just because you guys will be here all day if I type through them all. But we're just going to go through, and I'm going to let you guys see what's in every template. And for example, if you're looking to replicate the process, feel free to pause and type it into your CCM while you create your templates. So we are going to add a scheduling template, and we're going to add a waitlist template and a follow-up, all things like that, just to give you guys a couple of ideas what's going to be included in this big workflow. And then a couple things to get to know before we get started building our workflow is before you get started with the workflow, it's really great to plan them out first, decide how many workflows you want to have for a process. So for mine, we're going to have 3. And then you can determine who you want the cases to be assigned to through the workflow. So for example, if someone starts replying through the workflow, it's going to assign the case to a specific team member. So if you want to have a process like that, it's always good to lay that out and decide which team member it is going to go to. And then we want to create our new case types and statuses that we're going to be using in our workflow as well beforehand. So that's just a couple quick things that we need to know first, but other than that, now we're going to hop into the system and start making all of our templates, our case types, and our statuses. So I am going to hop over into this tab right here. So this is our cases page. This is where we're going to have our initial spay and neuter case that we're going to create every time we get someone applying. So I am just going to show you guys that first really quick and show you what I have in there. So I'm going to search by my assigned case down here. So now I'm just going to look for my spay and neuter one right here. So as you see, our case type right here is spay and neuter, and then we have our case status currently as a new application. So this will be the first step. You're going to want to create a case every time you get a phone call or any type of application for your spay and neuter program right here. And then down here, I just have a couple case tags in here that it is a female dog to be spayed and it's only one dog And then we have our contact information right here for our applicant. We can add an address if we would like, email, phone number, all things like that. Email and zip code are required. So this is going to be a specific email workflow, but other than that, down here we have our animal profile right here. So this is the animal's information that is applying to be spayed. So we have the name, the type, breed, all things like that. You guys should be familiar with these if you've seen some of our past webinars on anything related to animal profiles. But if you're new, we have a ton of different fields to fill in right here for basically any type of animal information as well. And then we have our clinical tab right here, which will come into play if you want to input any of the, for example, medications, medical events, anything like that that your organization wants to know about an animal in regards to your spay and neuter program. So I just wanted to point that out. Other than that, we just have a couple different fields down here. So for example, we can put in their microchip information, allergies, we have behavior assessments here too. But other than that, we're going to close out of our animal profile, and this is basically just our case that we're going to be working within. So the first thing that I'm going to do in regards to our workflow is I'm going to head over into our manage defaults section right here. And I'm going to create our case types and statuses that we're going to use for our workflow. So our case statuses, I am going to add a new one. So what I'm going to do here is create a S-N for spay neuter, and we're going to do waitlist. And we're going to just choose a color for that. So this is going to be our waitlist case status that will come into play in our workflow. If your organization does a waitlist system, this might be pretty similar to your process that you might want to create. But if your organization does not do a waitlist, you can always skip this case status. So we're going to create the spay neuter waitlist one. And then we're also going to create one for spay neuter scheduled. And we're going to put a green for that. So that looks good. And that all looks good. So we have our case statuses in here. And then down here we have our case types. So we're going to do a case name for spay, create, and we're going to do the same thing for neuter and create. All right, so we have our case statuses ready and our case types as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to head over into our templates tab right here, and we're going to hit the ground running on creating all of our templates. So like I said, I'm going to copy and paste some of these in just because there's probably going to be like 6 or 7. So I don't want you guys to have to wait while I type all these in. But what we're going to do is create our first template right here by clicking the plus sign. And we're going to do an email workflow, and then we're going to name our template, and we're going to put an email subject in, and then all of our contents. So let me fill all this in and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just put in all this information, and this is going to be the first step of the workflow. So this is going to be the first one that we're going to send out. This is going to be included in basically our confirmation workflow. So this is just going to let them know that their application has been reviewed and then they've been moved to our waitlist. So depending on whether your organization does a waitlist system or not, this can either be kind of interchangeable. So we can either just do basically that the request has been received, or it can be basically letting them know that they have been moved to the waitlist. So it really just depends on how you kind of run your organization's spay and neuter program. So basically, the way mine is going to start is that basically they have their application is a case, and then once our team's reviewed it and it looks good, we're going to put them in our waitlist, and that's what this basically template is going to be letting them know. So if this all looks good, we're going to go ahead and click save on this one, and we're going to move on to the next one. All right, so this is my next template. This is going to be the next workflow that's going to be sent out, letting them know that they have been removed from the waitlist and they are now able to schedule their spay and neuter. So in here, I just have a link to my Calendly where they can schedule. So for example, depending on what scheduling platform you use, whether you'll have to self-schedule or not, you can just put that link in here. And then this is a really important part of the workflow. So once appointments are scheduled, to have them reply. So for example, we can say, please reply with done when scheduled. because this is going to trigger the next communication to go out. So we're going to send them a reminder letting them know their appointment's coming up. And then after that, we're also going to send them a resources link or basically list them out in an email template depending on what you want to do. So that's a really, really crucial part to the workflow. So basically just letting them know to reply with anything once they have scheduled is basically the key to this working successfully. So this all looks good. And we're going to go ahead and click save and create the next one. Okay, so this is basically going to be my follow-up on the initial scheduling email. So basically, if they don't reply, this is going to go out a day later, reminding them to schedule. And then same here, again, we have reply done once they have it scheduled as well. So basically, this is going to be my follow-up to my initial email letting them know to schedule if they don't reply. So looks good again, and we're going to name this one scheduling follow-up. So looks good. So now we're going to move on to the next one. Okay, so this is my next one that is going to go out. So once they've scheduled, then they're going to get this that is going to ask them if their pet has any medical conditions, allergies, anything like that that the spay and neuter organization should know, but should be aware of just to make sure that animal stays safe. So what they're going to do is if they do have any concerns that they want to note to the organization, they'll just reply to this email with all of that information. And then what your organization will do is grab that reply and then put that into the clinical section of their animal profile. But if they do not have any, what they're going to do is reply with none or basically any other reply, but we're just giving them something easy to reply with. So like I said, again, that's going to be really crucial to the process of the workflow, the replies and non-replies. So that looks good here. So we're going to click on save with this one and move to the next. Okay, so this next one is going to be the last step in the scheduling after they schedule workflow. So this is going to be letting them know of any key things that they need to know before their pet is spayed and neutered, whether the pet should eat breakfast or not the morning of, all things like that. So this is just an example of what you can include in this email, and I put urgent right here just to make sure that they open it, and this will go out basically a day or two after the initial workflow is started. So depending on the time gap that you put in place in whatever scheduling platform you use, you'll want to make sure that this is going to go out before their actual scheduled date. So just to make sure there's a buffer on it and all things like that of at least 2 days. But other than that, this one looks good. So we're going to save it and make the next. Okay, so this is going to be our final workflow that we'll send out once their spay and neuter has been completed. So this is going to be a follow-up where they can reply if they have any questions or any concerns following that. And then basically what this is going to do is it's going to have a 7-day wait time on it. So if nobody replies within 7 days of any concerns or letting them know that the pet is doing well, all things like that, the case will automatically be archived, assuming that they are all good to go. But if for some reason they do come back and reply, it will bring that case out of archive, just so you guys know. So it won't be gone forever and you'll still see that reply. But this one looks good, so we're going to go ahead and save it. And this is going to be our last one, so now we're going to start building our workflows. Okay, so now to start building our workflow, we have all of our templates in place. They all look great, so we're going to head over here and to our Workflows tab. And we are going to create our first workflow. So I'm going to click on the plus sign right here. And I'm going to name the workflow. So this is going to be our waitlisted webinar workflow. So this is going to be the first workflow that we're going to send out, letting them know that their application has been received and they are going to be moving on to the next step, which would be our waitlist. So that looks good. We're going to save the name right here. And now we're going to start with an email, and what we're going to do right here is we're going to choose our email template. So we're going to go ahead and find our waitlisted email. So we have our confirm and waitlisted spay neuter one right here. So we're going to click on that, and that is going to send that out to the case contact, which would be their email that we have within the case that I just showed you guys when we first started in the system. And then down here, we're going to determine whether we want to put a response yes and send something else, or if there's no response, we want to send something again. So with this one, this is kind of just letting them know they're on the wait list. So I don't think it's really necessary for this one. So we're going to go ahead and If they reply, we will go ahead and put in a action of, for example, we will put them in as, where is my waitlist one? We have our spay neuter waitlist right here. So that's going to change our status. Since we sent this out letting them know they're going to be on the wait list, it's also going to automatically flip that case status to reflect that change as well. We're going to keep our case type the same, so we're going to choose no change. And we are going to then assign the case to basically whatever team member that you have that manages the spay neuter waitlist. So we're going to put myself for that one, and then we will just put in this time delay right here. For example, if they don't reply, this one won't really matter if they reply or not. Typically, they won't reply whether they've been on the wait list or not. It's kind of just a no reply type of situation. So we're going to basically copy the same action to fall in to put 0 in here. So 0 hours. So this is automatically going to change the case status to waitlist as well. So what we're going to do down here is we're going to click on action. We're going to change case status to spay neuter waitlist here again, no change to the case type, and we're going to assign this again. And once all that looks good, our workflow will end right here. So this is going to be our first one. So as you can see, basically this is basically a confirmation letting them know that they're on the wait list. So it doesn't really matter if we get a reply or not. Some people might reply, some people might not. So regardless, the case status is going to change them to the spay and neuter waitlist, and it's also going to assign them to whoever manages your waitlist. So this is our first workflow that we're going to send out. So this all looks good. So I'm going to click save and publish on this one. Awesome. So that was our first workflow. Now we're going to move on to our second one. So we're going to create another one, and this is going to be our spay neuter scheduling workflow webinar. Okay, so that looks good. So now we're going to go ahead and start building our next one. So I'm going to click on the email template again, and then I'm going to choose my email template. So let's go ahead and find our scheduling one. So we have our time to schedule, spay neuter one right here, and now we're going to decide on our next steps. So basically, if they reply to the scheduling one, which is going to be that reply that we're looking for, whether they reply with done or scheduled, anything like that, all we're looking for is a reply because that is going to trigger that they have scheduled. So what we're going to do is once they have scheduled, then let us know. So response received yes. So what we're going to do as the next step is we're going to put in the action again. So we're going to change our case status to spay neuter scheduled right here. We're going to keep our case status, our case type the same, sorry. And then we're going to assign this to, again, any team member who manages any of your scheduled spay neuter. So if that's different than the person who manages the waitlist, then you'll want to put a different team member in right here. But for that case, it's going to be me again. And then right here, if they do not reply to the scheduling one, meaning that they haven't scheduled, we're going to send out a follow-up. So we're going to give them 2 days to reply and schedule. And if they don't, we're going to go ahead and send them another one. So we're going to choose our, let's see where it is. Okay, so we're going to send them the scheduling follow-up right here. So this is going to remind them again, please schedule, and then that looks good right there. So now we are going to head back over into our response received yes side. And what we're going to do right here, so they've scheduled, they're all good. We have our case status going to be changing. So now what we're going to do is we're going to collect that pet information from them. So we're going to send out another email, and we're going to find our one that is going to collect the pet information. So collecting animal information, spay neuter. That looks good. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side if they reply with yes to that second follow email. So basically, if it took 2 times to get them to schedule and reply, that's okay, but we are still going to collect that animal information right here as well. So we're going to basically copy the same process. So we have collecting animal information again. That is sending that over. So Now we're going to move over to this side. So after 2 attempts, if they haven't scheduled, that's okay. But what we're going to do is basically close out this case. If they basically have scheduled after maybe 4 days, so we can put another 2-day time delay on this second scheduling one. And now what we're going to do is put an action right here. We're going to change our case status to a lot of different options that you can use for this, for example. But for this one, we're going to put archive case. We're not going to change our case type. We're going to put no change right here, and we will unassign this case from a team member as well. So that is good for the no side of things. So if they ignore everything, this is basically the path that we will go down. But going back up here, once we have them scheduled and they're good, we're going to copy that same case status, and we are also going to put in the action of scheduled here as well. So we're going to put spay neuter scheduled again. We are not going to change our case type, and we're going to assign again to that same person. So that looks good. For example, if they decide not to send over their animal information, it depends on what you want to do in this case. If you want to send them out the same message again, we can definitely do that, which is what I'm going to do in this case. So basically, I'm going to copy this same one and send it one more time. So we're going to wait 1 day, and I'm going to send out that collecting animal information email one more time, just to make sure they got it, to make sure the organization's not missing any key information right there. So that looks good. If they don't reply to this again, we're going to archive the case. But depending on what you want to do, you can basically keep it active, just depends. So that looks good there. We have this going out. So now we're going to put another 2-day time delay on waiting for the animal's information. And now we're going to choose our next action. So say they scheduled, but they just never sent any animal information. We can change the case status to reflect any type of status that we want to put on that. But for mine, I am just going to put a awaiting response. We'll leave this as no change, and we'll change our case, assign the case back to that same team member, so then they can maybe call them, anything like that, if they're not getting anything back. And that will be the end of this path that they'll go down. So for example, they scheduled, they didn't send any animal information. It's going to basically assign this case over to a team member, letting them know that there's no response, so they can reach out, they can call, anything like that to get in touch with them. But that path is going to end right there. So moving back up to the yes. So if they reply the second time, we sent out the collecting animal information tab, and we also have this one sitting right here as well. So we're going to put in the same process for these two right here. So we're going to send them out that resource link. So our next step, we're going to send another email, and we're going to send them the resources. Let me find that one really quick. Requirements and resources right there. That looks good. And then same over here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to send out requirements and resources. Okay, so now we have those right here. So then if we're not really looking for a reply to requirements and resources, so with this one, what we're going to do is, all we're going to do is just put a, for example, 1-day delay on this, and we're just going to end the workflow. And basically, we can put in an action, we can move them over to completed, anything like that, but depending on if your organization wants to do that manually, that might be the better route to go, just because then your, for example, if something comes up, your case statuses aren't changing before the actual spay and neuter. So we're going to just end the workflow right here after 2 days. And then over here, requirements and resources, again, we're not really looking for a reply, so we're going to just put in that time delay here. And okay, so that was a lot, but this is our biggest one, and it's done. So I hope you guys kind of followed where I was going with this, but from the top, I am going to explain it. So first thing that's going to happen, they're going to get this time to schedule your spay neuter. So once they've been removed from the wait list, now what's going to happen is if they do reply, they are going to get the spay neuter scheduled, case status, letting your team know that they have scheduled, and then now we're going to start collecting their animal information. Down here, once we have collected their animal information, we're going to send them resources again. So we're going to copy the same one right here. I just caught that I missed sending out the resources. So you want to make sure that you get kind of like every aspect of these because they can be a lot. So I'm going to send out this email again. So resources and requirements. Again, we're not looking for a reply on this one, so looks good. And then, for example, if we don't get any animal information, we can just end the workflow there. We can keep it as is. Totally depends on what you want to do. But down here, that'll end right there. So we have their animal information. We sent them the requirements. We're not looking for a reply on that. So that end of it is all set to go. And moving up here, so for example, if they've scheduled, we did not get any animal information, we are going to send them the animal information one more time. Whoops. Collecting animal information, same thing here. We will give them 2 days and then it'll just kind of end if they don't want to. But we're still going to send them out the resources again, whether we get any animal information or not. So down here, resources and requirements again, and we'll give them that 2-day time buffer on this. We're not looking for a reply. We're going to copy that same thing over here. We're going to switch that to 1, and we're still going to send them resources and requirements because this is always stuff that we can collect when they come in as well. So all that looks good. We're just going to fill in all of our blanks. So one of the key things to getting your workflow to publish is to make sure every single blank is filled in. So it can be a lot once there is like so many paths in here, for example, like mine. But here, let me zoom out and just show you guys high level what this is going to look like. So here's our start up here. Right here is where we start. It's going to send out that time to schedule. Our yes path is going to go down here, and our no path is going to down here, and then moving up to our no side of things. So if we don't get a reply on the first time that we send them out the spay and neuter, this is going to basically just follow up with them until we get the replies that we're looking for. So same concept here, so we can keep going. We have all of these replies in here. All of our blanks are filled in. This all looks great. So now we're done. This is a lot, but we are always here to help you guys build one. But if you are really into this kind of stuff and you think you can build one yourself, by all means, go for it. I highly encourage you to try these out and build a really big workflow. So this all looks great. I'm going to click Save and Publish. Perfect. So our final workflow is going to be just one step. So we're going to create one more. So this is going to be our follow-up webinar save. And what we're going to do is we're going to send them out an email. So now we're going to find our spay and neuter follow-up. So let me find it. Following up on spay neuter right there. It's going to send to the case contact. If they don't reply, we're going to give them 7 days. And now we're going to change the action to our case status is going to archive. We're not going to change our case type, so we're going to put our no change in. And then we will unassign that case to move it out of the basically spay neuter manager's assigned cases right here. So then same goes. If we reply, if we get a reply, we're going to put an action of basically we can put our no change case status. We can change the case status. We can put a rating response for this one. So if they do reply with any concerns, anything like that, it will change their case status to a waiting response so your team members know that they have basically a case to attend to that might be a little bit more urgent. And then again, we will assign to our spay neuter manager again, and we're going to put no change on the case type. So all this looks good. So we're going to save and publish this one, and this is going to be our follow-up. Okay, so now we created 3 workflows together. So now we're going to hop back over into our case and we're going to send them out. And then I'm going to zoom back in really quick so you guys can see. So I'm going to go ahead and search that same case that we had a little bit ago. Right here, our spay neuter one right here. So basically how this is going to work is we're going to send out our first workflow that we created. We're going to let that one run its course. And then once they are being moved into the scheduling side of things, we're going to send out the scheduling one. And then once they've completed their spay neuter, then we're going to send out the follow-up. So just to show you guys, I'm only going to send out one because it's a pretty similar process that you'll just repeat over and over depending on how the progression of your case is. But we're just going to click the workflow to execute. So now we're going to find our first waitlist webinar. So let me find this one. So we have our waitlisted webinar spay and neuter workflow. So it's going to start firing off those emails the second we click execute. So that is basically it for our webinar on a really comprehensive spay and neuter workflow. So now we're going to hop back into the slides and go through just a quick Q&A. Okay, so our first question is, where can I view my responses from the workflow? So that's a great question. We're going to head back into our case right here. So let me find this one right here again. And what's going to happen is we have a activity log here. This is going to let your team know who sent out that workflow. But if we hop over into our communication tab to view our replies, what we're going to do is our conversation log is right here. So then any replies that we get from the workflow, so for example, their medical history, letting us know they've scheduled, all things like that, any concerns, it's all going to fall in right here. So you'll be able to scroll through your entire conversation log. And our next question is, how will I know that I have a reply? So another great question. So what that is going to happen is in your cases, right here, we have this blue dot. So this blue dot is indicating that there is a message awaiting for your team to read. And then any of these red dots are going to let us know that there's a bounced communication for one reason or another, maybe an invalid email, their inbox is full, things like that. But basically this blue dot right here is going to be your indication that you have a reply. So for example, if you're waiting on any pet medical information, things like that, that is how you'll know. Another question is, what are the package plans for the spay and neuter program? So great question. So I'm going to show you guys our pricing page and show you guys what's included. So basically a workflow similar to what we created today will be created for you. It'll be seamless. You'll have forms. It'll automatically be sent out, all things like that. So you'll basically have a form to gather requests from. It can be put online or on your socials, anything like that. You'll have a shareable link. It'll be customized to your branding. Any custom questions that you want to have in it will give you basically a base to start with. And if there's anything you want to add, you can definitely do so. But here's our paid plans. We have one for foster management, owner surrender, rehoming, crisis boarding, and spay and neuter programs. So basically what you can do with these is you get all of this that's shown right here. So case statuses are made for you. You get your case types, templates, and 2 automated workflows. So we're going to create a comprehensive big workflow for you, and we're going to teach you how to use it, and we're also going to give you 3 forms. So basically, you're going to have a form for case creation, so basically your application form for your spay and neuter program. That's going to automatically create that case rather than doing it manually. And then you'll also have one for clinic availability, all things like that. It is $529 a year, so I just wanted to point that out. And if you're interested, you can head over to Doobert's pricing page right here. And we also have some additional benefits down here as well. So other than that, that is all I have for today's webinar. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and I hope to see you in future webinars.